So thank you so much for joining us on Let the Healing Begin podcast. I'm your host, Asia, and today we have Sophie Deslauriers. Deslauriers?
Yeah, Deslauriers. Yeah, you got it. You got it. No, you got it. You didn't even stutter there. You had it.
I'm so sorry.
That's okay.
How you doing?
I'm okay, thank you. How are you?
I'm good, thank you. So where are you from, Sophie?
I live in Toronto, Ontario.
Okay, born and raised.
Canada.
Born and raised.
I was born in Calgary. No, I'm Canadian. I was born in Calgary, but that's a couple provinces away, about 3,000 miles away.
Oh wow.
Kilometers, miles, yeah.
Wow. So how you like it?
Toronto?
Mm-hmm.
Toronto's one of my favorite cities in the world, to be honest with you.
Really?
It has a lot to offer. It has great, we have a beautiful lake. Sometimes I think it's the ocean, but it's a lake. We have great architecture. We got great nightlife. We got great food. We got good fashion. I mean, I can get pretty much everything I want here. It's getting expensive.
Yeah.
Cost of living is getting expensive. It'd be interesting to see what the real estate market does in the next 12 months, given the interest rates over here.
Absolutely. So let's go back to your childhood. Like growing up, what was that like for you?
Well, that depends what part you want to really talk about. My parents divorced when I was 2, so I don't have too many memories of my younger years. My mom was in a pretty bad accident when I was probably 9 or 10. She was a daycare teacher, and one day when I came home, she was at the hospital because she took a picture. And back then, the picture is plugged into the wall for the flash, and she had her bare feet wrapped around a metal stool, and there was no ground in the electrical wire. And so it grounded in her feet, which stopped her heart. And it actually blew her feet up 20 times the size that they were. So she couldn't wear normal shoes for a really long time and couldn't walk. So, we went through that whole period. And then I'll just give you some highlights, and then you can tell me which part you really want to lean into.
Okay.
And then she married an abusive alcoholic when I was about 16. So I was in high school around that point in time. So that was an interesting time for me. We were in and out of women's shelters. So, that wasn't my most favorable memories. And then I went to university, and I would say life changed a little bit then. I was in a completely different city. I made new friends, didn't really talk about my past, was really focused on my studies. I opened a college pro painting franchise, which didn't necessarily go as well as I had thought. So I actually ended up stripping through university to pay off those bills and to keep myself going through school. The good news story out of that is I paid off my $40,000 student loan within 1 year after graduating.
Wow.
I'm not so proud of the way that it happened, but that's what I did.
It's okay. Stuff happens, and at least you don't have $40,000 in debt.
Not from that.
Yeah,
not from that. And that happened to be where I met my ex-husband. Got married young. We were married for 18 years. And then I went through a divorce, and I got breast cancer in the same year. I repartnered. I refused treatment to get pregnant. And now I have a baby boy.
Okay.
So that's those the highlights. You decide where you want to go.
So I'm going to go back some. So growing up, let me ask you this. Do you have brothers and sisters?
I do. I have one brother that's from both of my parents. He's 18 months younger than I am. And then my father didn't necessarily remarry. He had another woman in his life, common law. And so he has a son who's 6 years younger than I am, who is married now with child.
And were you guys close knit and very close?
So my younger brother, Jason, who was 18 months younger than I, we were like this. So we lived together. But my brother, Kevin, he lived in Montreal with my dad and his mom. So there was a lot of separation there. I used to see him maybe twice a year, and then there was a gap in time when I didn't see him at all. But my older brother, Jason, he's younger to me, but older to Kevin, the middle one, he has bought a cottage in between Toronto and Montreal. So he has rekindled that part of the family, and he's done a really great job in the last 5 years of bringing everybody back together.
That's really good.
So yeah, my younger brother, Jason, and I were very close when we were younger. And then, as life went on, we grew a little bit apart. He was actually my ex-husband's business partner, which had its own challenges. And then when I went through the divorce, I kind of felt like I was divorcing both my brother and my ex-husband at the same time because they were in business together, which was challenging. And then he went through his own divorce with my ex-husband. So yeah, we've now actually rekindled in the last couple of months. Him and I have gotten really close again, which is great. It feels really good to have him back in my life in that way.
Yeah. So like growing up, I know you mentioned that your mom had like remarried to someone that was an alcoholic and really abusive. Was that towards like everyone, or was it just you in particular?
No, he was not physically abusive with me. I think he was more physically abusive with my brother. I used to just leave and go to a friend's house all the time, to be honest with you. I would escape. He was pretty bad with my mom physically.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, not me. I somehow escaped the physical abuse of it. I saw it, but I didn't receive it.
Yeah. Now, did you guys, well, how long were they married?
Not that long. Like, I actually don't know, but I would say maybe 18 months, maybe.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's a foggy time. Like, it's a foggy time for me. I was 16 and she was not married with him by the time I had finished school. So that's like mid of high school to the end of high school. Like, so I would say maybe a year and a half.
Yeah. And going through that, like, would you and your brother ever talk about the stuff that was going on at home?
No. Do the people do that?
Like I went through abuse growing up, but I don't think that me and my sister talked about it like while we were in that. We would just talk about how we can wait to make it out of that, and like,
right.
We're adults, maybe we talk about it a little. Some people, and I've met some people that haven't talked about it ever,
Yeah, so I did get pieces of information from my brother here and there. I mean, like I heard of some of the things that he endured, like, getting cigarette butts put out on his arm, like was one of the things that I heard. But we didn't have a father figure growing up, and I think my brother really took to him.
Mm-hmm.
I just couldn't wait to get out, like it was really a challenge for me, and I honestly just ran from it. I went to go stay at my friend's house for days on end, weekends on end, to not be a part of it. We don't really talk about it now. My mom and I don't really talk about it now. I mean, I was the one who brought the conversation forward. I did a charity event once for Red Door Women's Shelter, and I restarted talking about being in and out of women's shelters when I was younger. My brother had forgotten. Mm-hmm. He was like, "Oh, thanks. I didn't remember that, and now I have to deal with that." And it was just, it's interesting on how the mind works. Sometimes you shut things down and shut it out. And so, I mean, going back to that time now, I don't know how helpful that is for anybody. We're all past it, and I don't think that we need to be bringing up those memories. But I do feel like a little bit more conversation around it at some point in time earlier in life would have been helpful.
Yeah. Now, I know you mentioned like you would escape to friends and stuff like that. Did anyone of your friends like know what was going on at home, or they just kind of would always open their door to welcome you regardless?
Yeah, nobody really knew. I played a really good role hiding it, and I was speaking to some of my high school friends that I reconnected with recently, and they seeing me on this new journey and this new way of working, and I've been telling my story a lot more, and they were like, I had no idea. And I just, and it's funny because it's a pattern. Like people didn't have any idea what I was going through in my childhood. They didn't have any idea what I was going through in my marriage. I'm like, well, I must play a really good role. Yeah. Like, I must be like either that or nobody's caring to check in, which is what it feels like. Like no one's asking questions. I'm pretty sure this doesn't always look great because I'm not always feeling great. But people, I feel like, avoid it more because I can come off abrasive. I could be in a lot of pain and show up defensive, aggressive, or abrasive. But the truth of it is like I just want to cry inside. And I feel like that barrier, that defense mechanism, is keeping people away from really reaching me. Which is sad, and it's sad that I can put such a mask on, because sometimes I feel like I can't get out from the mask. Yeah. Once I put it on, it's like, gosh, I can't even access myself, and I want someone to access me. And then it's hard for me to take the mask off and be vulnerable again. Like I find that, I mean, no one's asked me that, so I appreciate the conversation. Like I find that to be a struggle for myself, to put the mask on, to try to be tough, to cry for somebody to reach me, and then to not be able to take the mask off and ask for support. Like that whole process, it's crippling. Yeah. Actually. And if I'm not careful and I get stuck in that, I can go very hard, very cold, very fast. Yeah. Yeah.
I commend you for, like being aware of like emotionally, what's up with you emotionally? Because not a lot of people are tapped into themselves like that, and so that's great that you are aware of yourself emotionally. Now let me ask you this. I know like over the years you said that you hadn't like talked much about it. When you did start telling your story, was that hard for you to do? Was that really emotional?
Like about being in another women's shelters?
Yeah, just like pieces of you that you started sharing that you hadn't shared before.
Not from my younger years, really. I would say that was more challenging when once I started to go through the divorce. Like for me to have really put up such a front and no one actually like to hear that nobody really knew, like that was like, wow, like it's so easy to lie and people believe it. I feel like I'm somebody who listens and looks for alignment or congruency or authenticity when somebody's communicating, and I feel like so many people are just okay with whatever you say and they walk away. And I guess I felt it wasn't necessarily so hard to communicate. Yeah, it did. Of course, I had emotions around it because I had to admit some things to myself. So yes, I want to say yes to that. But I also had to be dealing with the fact that, okay, so how did I allow myself to be treated like that? How did I allow myself to let other people think those sort of things? Like I had to really just deal with myself. Yeah. That was what I find was the hardest part, is like I had a part to play in that. Yeah. I needed to take full responsibility for that. As much as I'd like to blame, that's not going to give me any power or forward momentum. And so then I had to look at, okay, so what did I do to contribute, and to see how I created a lot of suffering for myself from trying to be something that was accepted by people. That was hard. That's still hard for me, because I've been so, I don't even know if I want to use the word conditioned, or that's part of it, but I've practiced that way of being for so long. That pattern is so ingrained that I wobble with it, and sometimes I have to be very conscious and careful of how I maneuver, because it's easy to fall into that rut.
And you know what it is? That's one of the biggest, most like hardest, toughest things. Is number one, to like taking accountability for us as individuals, and then like unlearning and relearning life, really,
Yeah, it's not easy. And I'm 47, and I'm not old and I'm not young. Yeah. That's enough time to have some very deep patterns. Yeah. And I've been doing transformational work, self-development work for 24 years now. And it doesn't necessarily get easier. People think I make things look easy. I think that's just because of the work that I've done. Maybe it looks easy for people to watch, but it's not easy for me to go through it. Like I feel everything.
Yeah.
Especially when you're trying to make change, you feel it. Like I feel everything, and it's like sometimes it's just like whoa, being not mean so bad sometimes. Yeah, I understand why people drink.
It can get really intense. It gets really intense some days, and it's so hard. And I think that a lot of us just go through it, not really without people even knowing like how intense the transitions are,
Right.
So when people look from the outside in, they think, oh, it's so easy, and it's like, no, I feel like I'm in a midlife crisis over here,
Yeah, for the last 5 years. It isn't going away.
Yeah. So let me ask you this. Let's say we have somebody that's listening that is having a hard time with like self-accountability and stuff like that. What would you say to that listener?
So if you're having a really hard time taking responsibility or accountability for the way your life is right now, and you would rather sit in victim mode or blame mode, I'm going to say that I feel that compounds the pain of it, because there's no way out. You will get stuck there for the rest of your life. If you're going to take accountability and responsibility, you now have reclaimed your power. Okay, you might not like how you've operated or behaved or communicated in the past. Okay, but you can now do something about that. You can learn a new way. You can make some corrections. You can go back and try to repair some of those relationships, or, take accountability and restore your integrity with the other human beings in your life, and you can move forward. But to sit there and not take accountability, to be in denial about it, like the fog, the confusion, the like self-sabotage, the tornado of that, I feel like it's a dangerous place to sit, because the longer you sit in that, the harder it's going to be to get out. And is that what you really want your life to be? Like, you actually have a chance. You actually have a chance. But that's going to mean you're going to have to pick up some pieces and do some work. I mean, it's not easy, but I think that it's far more rewarding and fulfilling and worth it than sitting there complaining and doing nothing about it, from my perspective, based on what I've seen. And what you get to create with the other human beings in your life when you go back and have those conversations, to set new boundaries or to set new non-negotiables, to uphold those boundaries that you didn't uphold before, to renegotiate the terms of the relationship, to own your part in it, to say sorry in it, to want it to go a different way. I mean, it can totally transform your experience in life.
Absolutely. And you know, life flies by. It will pass you by if you don't put your foot on the gas and try to put in some type of effort. It'll in a flash.
And it doesn't have to all get done in a day.
Yep.
Like, if it gets intense today, okay, just go for a walk, listen to some music, hang out with your lover, whatever that is, go to sleep, watch a movie, be with your child, your pet, and start again tomorrow. I mean, one of the things I would say I struggle with is I try to do it all in a day.
Yeah.
Because I want it fast. I want to have patience. I want it now. But it actually is just doing a little bit every day will get you there faster than trying to do it all in one day, because you crash that way.
Yeah. And you get, burnout is so easy. And when you get burnt out, it's so hard to come back from that. I always said, like, small steps make big progress, even if it's just one thing a day, until you feel like you can add more to your plate. But just do something every single day, just something, and you're gonna have some days where you don't feel like it, but you gotta fight through it,
I know, it's like they say, if a boat or a plane is on course and they change the course just by 1 degree, they end up in a completely different space. So, I mean, it's just like you're saying, like, one step every day towards the life you want, towards the human being that you want to be, towards the, whatever it is you want to experience. Just make and do something and feel in that direction, and you'll be better.
Absolutely. So let's go back. I know you mentioned that you were divorced. Was that a hard space for you to move into? Because oftentimes, like, when we get married, and I won't dig, at the reasons why or anything like that. But oftentimes, like, when we get married, because I was married too, oftentimes we go into the marriage like, this is for life, this, that, and the other. And so we will endure a lot to avoid divorce. Was that a hard transition for you?
Yeah, well, 18 years. Wow. So I got married at the age of 23. Divorce being failure was one of my major motivators for staying longer than I should have. My mother had been divorced 4 times. His parents never really approved of me. So, I didn't want to prove them right. Yeah. It's ridiculous, the cost of happiness, right? Like, it cost me my happiness. I'm going through the divorce. I did have those feelings, but I got to a place where I was like, can you please show me 5 people that have been married for 18 years, because I can't. Yeah. And if you're going to tell me that being married for 18 years and then going through a divorce was a failure, I'm actually going to step to that, because I'd like to see who's making it past 5. Mm-hmm. Because the relationship skills, the communication skills, the self-leadership skills, the collaboration skills, that's required to stay inside of a relationship and have it work for that long, and to build like a company and on friends and like a social network, it far exceeds, in my opinion, what it takes for somebody to be single. Mm-hmm. I used to have people say that to me all the time. Oh, well, you're lucky, you're in a relationship. I'm like, yeah, do you know how much I have to upgrade my communication skills, like almost on a weekly basis? Yeah. My listening skills, my collaboration, like I have to look at this like I'm collaborating and negotiating, and I'm not like the way I have to reframe my mind. Yeah. I'm an expert at reframing my mind to make it a freaking positive context. Yeah. You hear something you don't like once and you peace out, man. Like, I just don't know how that's how do they compare? So I've completely reframed that. I don't think divorce is failure at all. I just believe it's no longer a fit and fair. After 18 years, it's very reasonable that people grow apart. I actually didn't realize that until it happened to myself. I actually realize now that that means you want different things. I wanted different things at the age of 42 than I did at 22. He didn't want what I wanted. I didn't want what he wanted. I didn't want to wait any longer because it wasn't going to get what I wanted if I waited. I had to make a hard choice for myself, you know? I had to choose a life that I wanted to live for myself over living a life that we had created together that was no longer serving me, that he still wanted to have, you know? Like, those are hard decisions to make.
Yeah.
So to answer your question in a more shorter fashion, I did feel at first about the failure piece of it. I think that's more of a I think that's what women are conditioned to believe, so they stay, so that people, so society, men, patriarchy has power and control over women, and that just makes me want to scream louder. Ladies, you don't have to stay.
Now let me ask you this. Looking back at, like, if you could take a step back and look at the woman that you were, the woman that was in that 18-year-old marriage, and you could say something to her, what would it be?
Oh yeah, that's good. So like with my younger self, I would say, like, the number one thing, there's two things that come to mind right away. One, don't abandon yourself. So don't do what you need to do just to people please or to accommodate or to make things work. And two, make sure I was communicating boundaries, but make sure you enforce your boundaries, because the minute I did not enforce my boundary, I disrespected myself and taught everyone around me it's okay to disrespect me because I won't even stand for myself. And I didn't learn that until now, out of the relationship. And that is like, I just don't even understand why we're not teaching girls boundaries in grade school.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because I have also come to learn from my research, and this is just in the past week, that when a woman can communicate and enforce her communicate her needs and enforce her boundaries and get her needs met, it's the foundation for her to know that she advocates for herself. It's the foundation for her to trust herself, to believe in herself, for her confidence, that she has an impact on the way things go for her, you know. But again, we are conditioned. I really believe women are conditioned to put other people's needs first, to serve the needs of the family, to not rock the boat. And that waters down or completely destroys the concept of us communicating our needs and enforcing our boundaries, because they don't go together. And again, I think that robs us, I'm going to use that word, it robs us of our independence and of our power. And again, I think that's a whole thing that's the patriarchy's done, you know. It's a great way to keep women down. And it's just, I feel so passionate about it today because I feel like perhaps it's my purpose now that I went through that marriage and then got breast cancer, because if I would have known that not enforcing my boundaries would have led to an increase in anxiety, which leads to inflammation, which leads to all sorts of things like cancer and rheumatoid arthritis and all this lupus, all these jazz diseases, and correlated that not holding my boundaries means I'll get cancer. If I would have known that, I would like to think I would have behaved a completely different way. And there's too many women at risk, in my opinion, now to get sick, and too many of us are getting sick. And it's not a simple fix. I don't want to say it's a simple fix, but it's within their power. And the challenge is to get over the fear of rejection, because, you know, all of a sudden you're going to enforce a boundary, so now people might not like you. Well, there's going to be protest behavior, but you gotta have to choose, and we're not conditioned to choose ourselves. And so we're constantly doing that. And I just have come to a place where it's like, I don't want to feed into that in any way. And so speaking out, and I'm one step in front of the other, figuring out how to speak out more, you know? So thanks for the opportunity.
No problem. Can you elaborate a little bit, like, a little more in depth about like the effects of stress and stuff like that onto our health? Because, like, I personally know people, like, I know someone who's died, you know, due to stressful heart, you know. You know, people that have caught breast cancer due to stress and just, you know, things like that. So can you elaborate, like, how important that is
Yeah, so let's just take my example for a minute. So I would communicate a boundary and then it would get crossed and then I would not enforce it. I know I'm selling out on myself, but you know what? I'm going to be the dutiful wife. I'm going to accommodate. I'm going to people please. I don't want to be rejected. I don't want to have to enforce a boundary because like, what does that mean? It's the end of the relationship. So then now that's causing stress. These thoughts are causing me stress. The more negative thoughts I have, the easier it is to get looped into these thoughts. So now it's like I'm being disrespected. He mustn't love me because if he loved me, he wouldn't do those sorts of things to me, right? So then now that's creating more thoughts and more negative thoughts. So then I'm getting more, my sense of self is, my self-worth is starting to deplete, my self-confidence, because I'm like, okay, I'm gonna wait till the next time and then I'm out. And the next time shows up and then I still don't do anything about it. So now I can't trust myself because I know I'm gonna sell out, I might be weak. And so the negative thoughts, they start to loop and it starts to create like this anxiety, this anxiousness, like this lack of love for myself. And then anxiety is directly correlated to inflammation in the body. So inflammation in the body is just like an irritation with the immune system. And the inflammation in the body, whether that's like in your, I don't know, like in your arms and your stuff, for me, it's mostly my stomach. Inflammation is the precursor to several different diseases. So it's like, it's just like that. You sell out on yourself or whatever you do creates anxiety. The anxiety creates negative looping conversation in your mind. That creates more anxiety. The anxiety leads to inflammation in the body. The inflammation is the breeding ground for several autoimmune diseases like lupus, rheumatoid arthritis, endometriosis, fibromyalgia. It's also the breeding ground for cancers. So when I started to do the research and I saw that cancer is directly related to inflammation, which is related to anxiety, I just started to connect the dots for myself. It's just like, oh, perhaps, part of my purpose now was I didn't get away scot-free. I had a lumpectomy. They were able to take it all out. I refused treatment. I mean, I came out of it okay. But now I feel like as part of my purpose is to communicate that to women and to empower them, and how I feel my contribution to women is, because I specifically want to help them through heartbreak, is to grow their leadership.
Yeah.
Because I believe the fastest way through heartbreak is to grow your leadership. It's to be future focused, like to get your sense of self back. And I'm not sure that people are really talking about that too much. And it's the thing that's going to save your health. Because the more positive you feel about yourself, that's going to be the complete opposite loop, right? You're going to have more positive feelings towards yourself. You're going to start to have more self-confidence, self-belief, self-trust. Once you start to get that, then you'll start to step outside of your comfort zone a little bit, and then you'll produce results in other areas of your life, and then your life will start to expand, and then, you blossom. And I would I intend to be someone who contributes to that with women,
Yeah. So I know you mentioned that you had gotten cancer. Like, what was it that, were you having side effects, or how did that go for you?
I found a lump one day in my breast. It felt a little bit like a pea stone, like those little pea stones you use in the garden, like at the bottom of a tree or something. Mm-hmm. And I forgot about it for months. And then I had repartnered at the time. I was with somebody, and he reminded me to call the doctor like every day for a week, because I would call and it would be busy. So I finally went into a walk-in clinic, and they sent me to a breast diagnostic center. And because I had implants, the surgeon couldn't do the biopsy. I needed to have a radiologist do the biopsy with an ultrasound. And the biopsy came back inconclusive. Like I pretty much knew in that moment that I had cancer. So I went and they did the lumpectomy, and they could just tell me I had stage 1 breast cancer. It did not hit my lymph node, but they couldn't really tell me my treatment protocol because I had to send this stuff off to the States. So I sat in unknowing for 3 months. Which is, and so every day I would negotiate with God, the universe, whatever your word is, and I'd be like, okay, you cannot have my breast, and I'm not up for chemo, so show me a different way. Mm-hmm. And I was like, you need to just give me show me, and I would read, and I became pretty recluse. I only had a few people in my life at that point in time. Like I really pulled back, and that's when I started to realize I started to deconstruct everything, like all the ways that I was thinking, my relationships, and I started to realize I had this pattern of operating out of guilt and obligations. So it was really easy for somebody to get me to do what they wanted them to do if I felt a little guilty about it.
Mm-hmm.
And so after doing more learning and research, I realized that feeds into people pleasing. And I didn't realize I was such a people pleaser. So I had to renegotiate that specifically with some of the major relationships in my life, you know, my family. And so long story short, I went to go get my results, and my results were not available because it was a long weekend. They were short staffed, and I was like, okay, universe, like, what was it I need to know? I haven't done enough work. Like, what else do I need to know? And then 3 months later, my results came back. They wanted me to do 25 radiation treatments and 2 years of tamoxifen, because I had a 30% chance that cancer would reoccur because I was young. I was 40, I could live to live 80, that's still another 40 years. So they wanted me to like really, I guess, kill the chance. And they said the radiation treatments would give me a 15% benefit that the cancer didn't come back. And so I said, okay, what if I change my lifestyle? Like 15% doesn't sound like it's a lot. Mm-hmm. They're like, well, we just don't take that into consideration. I said, if I do 25 radiation treatments and I do 2 years of tamoxifen, I can't get pregnant during that time. And then I'm going to be 44. Like this, like, let's just be honest here. Yes, women are getting pregnant later in life, mostly through fertility, but I couldn't do that. Like, I just had cancer. Like, how was I going to do hormones in my body? Like, that just didn't work. Right. So I was like, there's going to be no chance for me. So I said to my oncologist, which is, I think it's important if anybody's dealing with this. This is what I really want you to know is I said to my oncologist, what happens if I do nothing? What are the chances of the cancer coming back if I do nothing? Because that's a completely different spreadsheet. I said, well, could you pull out that spreadsheet, please? He's like, okay, well, I got to go to my computer. I'm like, could you go to your computer? He's like, if you do nothing, you have an 89% chance cancer does not come back. And then in 5 years, 82. And then in 5 years, like that. And so it goes down every 5 years. And I was like, hold up, wait up. Like, are you telling me if I do nothing, I have an 89% chance it doesn't come back, but yet you want me to do these treatments for a 15% chance that, and he's like, well, you know, Sophie, people do chemotherapy for a 1% benefit. I'm like, he goes, we just like to keep you safe. I'm like, this doesn't sound like keeping me safe. This sounds like you guys are making money and you're trying to avoid lawsuits. This is what this sounds like to me. I said, I just need to know, because I was feeling very crazy, you know, I just need to know, is my thinking out of line to think that I should do nothing because I have an 89% chance? He goes, well, you know, I could actually get behind your decision. And I was like, what about the people who don't know to ask those questions? What about the people who don't speak English? What about, you know, the fear that you hear when you get the word cancer put in front of you? The brain goes fritz. Like, I was blessed to have the strength to be able to connect the dots and to decipher the information and to stand in my truth and to like shut everyone out and just like be one connected with the universe and be like, what do I need? Please, like, show me the way. And I guess part of it as I'm communicating with you is like, I needed to know to ask the questions. Like, that's what I didn't necessarily have more work to do. I needed to do the questioning. Mm-hmm. And thank God I did, because like, if you look at the statistics, like, there's no need for me to be because radiation is not good for the body. Mm-hmm. And so that's how I didn't get away scot-free, but I did well for myself, like, to put it that way, because I really did negotiate with the powers that be.
And you know what? I believe that part of your work to be done was like, once you did ask those questions, like, what were you going to do with those answers? Were you, like, your ultimate test was, are you going to go back into people pleasing and take this chemo and this radiation? Right. Are you going to stand strong on, you know, your independence of, you know, no, I don't want to do that.
Well, and it's interesting you say that, because there is a part of me that feels like I manifested cancer to give me the strength, the excuse, the backbone, the crutch to then be able to say, I can't do this anymore with you, because if I do, I'm going to get sick again, you know? And it's interesting what our soul will do. And I fully could take responsibility for that. I could totally see myself doing that to myself, for myself, maybe not to myself, and then seeing it as part of my purpose then, you know? Because I was asking, what's my purpose? What, you know, God put me to work.
And you know what? I'm getting a little bit of a download. Like, what if the whole cancer thing was because, you know, you were like so deep into people pleasing, and that revealed that element to you. And then like also because the doctors are not going to tell people, you know, you have a higher chance not doing anything, you know, like maybe your purpose is to, you know, show other women, you know, how to shake loose of the people pleasing, but also to shine some light on, you know, you can advocate for what it is that you want to happen to your body. Like these, you know, I'm a walking testimony. Like I had cancer and I didn't do anything, you know, and my doctor wanted me to ultimately get chemo and stuff, and I said no, and I'm still alive and healthy, you know.
Yeah, I was never a candidate for chemo, but yes, radiation. But radiation. And to your point, I do believe it's about standing in your truth. You know, I could stand in that because it was what was true for me. And so, yes, to your point, it's like helping other women. If you have a truth for yourself, I believe that's stronger than anything, but you have to know it for yourself. Mm-hmm. It's not like you can be like, I'm going to ride off Sophie's belief that is, I'm not going to, you know, like you have to like, it's like, I describe it like you're in the middle of a tornado and you have to stand so strong that you can see and pick out the things that you want and you let everything else fall away. Like you have to be that strong about it.
Mm-hmm. Oh, that's good. I like that. That's good.
You got to be that strong.
And you know what? It was something that you mentioned, and I was going to ask you this, like when you had gotten the news that it was cancer, did you ever go through that stage of like, where your brain was trying to shut down and accept that diagnosis and just stay there?
I don't know. I mean, it was a very challenging time because I was still going through the divorce. Mm-hmm. I was very vulnerable. I just felt like, if you want to talk about failure, I thought that was more of a failure than actually going through the divorce, because I feel like I failed myself. Yeah. Like I had behaviors that I was engaging in, like, you know, toxic behaviors that I knew of, that maladaptive coping mechanisms that I had taken on that I knew were not good for my health. And I just was like, oh God, you knew all along. Like I knew all along it was coming for me, you know? Yeah. Sorry, I forgot your question. Did I stay there? No, just, to be honest with you, if I had to do chemo, I would have rather swallow bottle pills. That was just like not for me. And I was just like, really, I negotiated with the universe. That is not for me. No, let's find another way. But I did get to a place of thinking, if this is my time, this is my time. Like, I'm not going to do things just because people want me to do things. Like if it's, and I was a bit apathetic about life at that point. I kind of gave my hands up, you know. I had to really, the way out of it for me was I had to really focus on a new future. I had to figure out what was my new future going to be. And I wanted to be a mom. So I was blessed to have the vision and the focus of what it would be like to be a mom. And then I had to deal with, maybe I wasn't going to be able to be a mom because I had cancer, and what happens if the cancer comes back. And I went for it anyways, you know. And so for anybody who's going through that kind of transition, like a divorce or like a health crisis, the way through it, honestly, is to focus on the future and what can be, and make it happen for yourself, and grow your leadership, grow your relationship with yourself, rebuild the relationship with yourself, get your confidence back, your self-esteem, your self-worth, but get it back based on what you're doing for yourself, not based on what other people are, how other people are giving it to you. And it's not on your looks, and it's not on your performance. Like, I made a promise to myself today and I kept it. And that could be as simple as reading 10 pages, drinking a glass of water. Like, start somewhere. Mm-hmm. And then get yourself moving, like you said earlier, one step a day towards the future that you visualize for yourself, and feel it. And that's, as all the manifestation gurus, it really is the way. It really is the way. Yeah.
So let's go back to like trying to get pregnant. How did you feel when you had like gotten pregnant? When it all became
pregnant? I actually had no doubt I was going to get pregnant. I even called that I was going to get pregnant on my first try. And I wish I could tap back into that energy, that certainty, because I was so unattached to the result. It was more important to me to try to get pregnant and not get pregnant than it was to not get pregnant and deal with the fact that I never tried. Yeah. Like that for me was just, that took me so far. And then when I found out I was pregnant, I was just like, okay. Yeah. okay, we're doing this, you know? And then I got pregnant, like, I conceived 2 weeks before there was the pandemic shutdown. And then I found out I was pregnant 2 weeks after the pandemic shut down. And it's sort of sad a little bit because I started to confuse being pregnant with losing all my liberties because of the shutdown. And I thought, oh God, is this what life is going to be like when I have a baby? Like, I was ready to not engage in certain behaviors, but I wasn't ready to lose my life. Yeah. And the pandemic really was a loss of life for everybody. And so I had to like really focus and be strong through that, because I started to think, oh God, is this what having a baby's like? Like, I can't see anyone. Nobody really wanted to see me because I was pregnant.
Yeah.
But what it was like, I guess it was like another one of those moments where I did something for myself. I went for something for myself. I spoke my truth for myself. I did it regardless of what everyone else was saying. And that got rewarded. Like, all of that got rewarded. The courage to leave the marriage, the courage to say no to cancer, the courage to be with the man that I'm with, who happens to be 18 years younger than me. Like, there was a mindset around that. The courage to have a baby. Like, I believe courage and standing in your truth gets rewarded. The universe aligns to that. Mm-hmm. And it was another one of those moments where I was like, yes, good for me.
No, that's right. It's a win.
Yes, I could do that. Yes, I did. I said I was going to do that, and I did that.
No, that's right. I like
just like that.
Yeah, and you know what? God keeps bringing up like authenticity in front of me, and I think that's like really what He wants us to do, is for us to be authentic, like down to our core, you know, regardless of what other people think, regardless of, you know, how other people feel. Like, what is it that you want, you know, and actually going for that, like full force for that, you know. And just the spiritual current, like one revelation that He gave me was like, in this hour, like the spiritual currency is authenticity, like just being real to the core, you know,
and living in your truth, like speaking your truth. Yeah. And I believe there's a way to do it. And this is where elegance and grace and communication comes in for me, you know, because when I started going through the cancer thing and like renegotiating the terms of my relationships, it was ugly and messy. Like, I was this emotional and I'm a speaker. So like, these things should be fairly easy, but they're not. And the more you do it, the easier, the more elegant you get about it, the more graceful you get about it, the less triggered you get about it, the easier it's like, I understand it's not what you want from me, but this is what I'm going to do. And the more graceful you stand inside of that, I find people I don't want to diminish it in any way, but people be like, okay, like, she's strong. I'm just gonna step back. But when you're not strong and you're like, I feel like they want to correct you or something, or like help you. But when you just like, I don't need any help. I know exactly what I'm doing. I was a 44-year-old woman. I know what it is to have a baby. I know who I've chosen. Like, I don't need any one of you to like school me. I'm just taking charge right now. Yeah. and I found they line up.
Yeah, they kind of naturally like just back off, you know.
They line up. Yeah, they get in line. So you gotta get yourself in line if you want to continue to be in my life, because I'm not dealing with this anymore.
I like that. I love that, for real.
No, but like, that's just kind of how it is, and I feel like we need to talk about that more, because all the people pleasing we do, it's like a passive aggressive dynamic between both people that keeps it toxic. But when there actually is one party who is like, I'm solid, I know who I am, I know what I want, I know what I'm doing. The other person just be like, oh, she untouchable. Like, I can't get in. And no, you can't. So either you alter your way or step out. And I'm actually quite fine if you step out.
Life still goes on, right? Life still goes on.
I am no longer basing my happiness on whether or not you approve of what I choose to do.
Yeah. You know what? Because when we put like us into other people's hands like that, we give, like you said, our power away. We let other people control, you know, our, and like, life already brings enough our way. Like, we already go through so much, you know, so why not find happiness? Like, you know, and one thing my mom used to say was, you got to teach people how to treat you, you know?
Yes.
You have to teach them how to treat you. And part of that is how you treat yourself, you know?
they watch how you treat yourself. Exactly what I was saying about the boundaries things. You disrespect yourself, you can teach other people it's okay to do that. And I didn't realize that until now. And so, like, I'm very clear with people. I'll be like, okay, you can't mess with my head because I'm tracking the conversation. So make sure you be intentional with what you say, because I'm going to come back around and check on you.
Yes, no, that's right.
Be honest with me, because if you cross my boundaries and you're not honest with me, then that's an integrity issue with myself. And then I'm going to have to deal with myself. And then I don't want to have to enforce a boundary because you didn't communicate properly.
I love that.
You know, because then it becomes an issue for me.
Yes.
And I can't, that I will go there again.
Yeah.
So now I'd be a little bit more patient with, like, okay, so what do you really mean? What are you trying, like, I have to, like, you know, not everybody has the most effective communication style, and I understand that, but you have to actually be willing to unpack the conversation. Because otherwise, and you're welcome, because I'm actually fighting to keep the relationship.
Yeah.
I'm doing the work to keep you around. It's all of a sudden you start starting to sound like a lot of work to me.
Yeah. And some people can be a lot of work, you know, like you said, it was something that you said a minute ago about people actually unpacking. Like, one thing that God has shown me is, like, to have patience and give people grace, like, as far as, you know, because everybody isn't on the same, you know, level as me, maybe, like, with my communication, you know,
right,
are up to my standards. And He showed me, you know, how to show people grace, you know, but it's about the effort. Like, you know, are you going to, like you said, unpack this conversation? Are you going to carry out effort, like, day in and day out, you know,
and
not
be honest about it?
That's the main thing for me, you know.
Like, you can screw up, you can make a mistake, but you got to be honest and own it. Look, okay, yeah, I did that. Okay, fine, let's work through that.
And that's okay, because people make mistakes, you know, nobody's perfect, but are you taking accountability?
Yeah, and at least owning it when it comes your way, because otherwise all I see is gaslighting. I'm gonna put that out right quick.
Yes, it is. You know,
otherwise I see narcissism and gaslighting, and I'm like, I got antennas for that now.
I know, right?
I'd be like, this was a very narcissistic thing to say. Can you just check in on that for a second? I mean, it can't be easy to hang out with me, to be honest with you.
Yeah, I like that. And you know what? And you know what? Once you make it through that, it's like the tolerance just drops immensely, you know, when you go through, you know, so much of that. It's like life is too short to be sitting around kicking rocks and playing, like, you know, with all the gaslighting and narcissism, you know, stuff like that.
Well, and here's the other thing for the people that are listening. There will be people who behave a particular way with me that nobody else gets access to. Because they know when they step into the room with me, like when I'm around, it's just none of that play. Like, I just don't play those games. And they just know that. And I think it's refreshing for them. But not everybody, I had to learn, not everyone is up for that. Not everybody wants to be seen. Not everybody is looking for a place to have a real authentic conversation. Some people want to still be behind their mask, and that's cool. You hang out in that corner, I'll be in this corner.
You know, and you know, I've said that before. Like, some people are comfortable in their ways, you know.
Yeah,
and that's fine. But you know, like, go do that over there. You know, I don't want that in my life. You know,
nowhere near me. Like, I live by this. I cut cancer out before I even knew I had it. We did the lumpectomy before we even confirmed it was cancer. I cut energy out before it even touches me. Mm-hmm. If I get a vibe that it's like just offside, like, it could be a little unfortunate that maybe I cut too quick, I've been told. I'm willing to revisit. I'll be willing to revisit, but like, I just don't need that around me either. I'm with you on that one.
I know, that's right. I love how strong you are. Love that.
Thanks. I have my areas, but yeah, that's something that I really did get out of the divorce and going through cancer. Like, that, those are, and I feel it's my purpose now to share that with other women, because there is a strength I have that they can drink off me, to gain, to lean on me. I can hold a lot, you know, and so lean on me, to practice with me, to learn, you know, like, let me hold you as you navigate this foreign terrain. It's like a whole new planet, kinda, you know.
That's so true.
Yeah, it's like a foreign terrain.
It is, and it can be very hard to navigate. You know what? And it's crazy because like when you and I, like some of us, when we go through our own foreign terrain, we don't have anybody but God to lean on, right? And then he turns us around and sends us back for other people to lean on us. You know, isn't that funny?
Yeah, and you know what? I'm totally good with that because there was like 5 years there. I was like every day, please put me to work.
Yeah.
Let me do your work. Please give me meaningful work. Like I was training. I was in the corporate world training sales leaders and sales teams, working mostly with men, making lots of money, making companies lots of money. And it was like a sexy, flashy job that I had dreamt up as a kid. And it was like very ego driven. And I did it for myself. But it just came to a point where it was like, those are not the conversations I want to have. And so like, please, like, and I guess, you know, I went through what I went through to be able to have this strength. And I have the gift of articulation to be able to have another woman understand what I'm saying. I can make it work for her in her mind, you know, so she doesn't get lost or she doesn't. It's like Bambi legs too. Like if you're just new to speaking your truth and putting up your boundaries, and somebody can still run you over.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah.
And you know what? Let me ask you this, like, now that you look back at like what you were doing for work before and like how you are walking in your purpose, for let's say we have a listener that's kind of, because sometimes God will ask us to leave these high paying jobs and stuff like that and go step into things. But now that you are actually seeing both sides, can you tell the listeners like what that has done for you, what the difference?
Well, this, like, even this conversation in itself is not something I would ever have the opportunity to have in any form of professional setting. And this is so fulfilling for my heart. Like, my heart is full now, you know, like I didn't have the best day, but and my energy is completely shifted and my heart is full and I feel connected to what I'm doing and why I'm doing it. And the challenges that I have are silly technical challenges because I'm not very technically great, and marketing has never been my thing. I'd rather just talk. So all the hardships that I have, when I get to do this and be in alignment, it's beautiful. It's not work. It's like we're just two girlfriends having a conversation, like just like, and you know, there's like no alcohol, there's no bar, there's no music. Like it's like it's so fun for me, and I'm grateful to get to meet people like yourself who want to do that. I call it like slicing and dicing because not everybody likes to do that.
Yeah, I really appreciate that. And I you know what, every time I get off of one of these calls, one of these podcasts, I'm like, God, thank you. Like, you know, my heart is so full and meeting different people that are like, you know, all of us are connected. So it's like we're on different types of paths, but we're all walking somewhat the same journey, you know. And I appreciate God blessing me with this platform and allowing me to interact with people and make those divine connections, you know, and just see the different people that are brave enough to step up here, you know, and be leaders, you know, in this healing. And it's just really encouraging. Every time I get off of here, I'm like, God, thank you. You know, this is so, my heart is so full. And for that, like that right there alone in itself is priceless. You know, I couldn't, when I was working a job, making a lot of money, I was never this happy, you know?
No. I mean, there was moments, but
yeah.
No, I mean, I get to talk about things that I used to hide. Pray somebody would ask me a question about it. Somebody please just like, let's just talk about relationships for real. Like for real though. Okay. Like for real. Yeah. I mean, that's why I signed up for this pod match thing, is because I didn't really know how to get myself out there. And I thought, okay, well, if I could start just talking and just like I'm really, it's kind of like the abyss for me right now. You know, I'm getting a little bit more clear as I go, but yeah. The pod match, this platform has been such a gift, because each conversation is a little different, and each interviewer asks me a little bit something different. Like, you know, it's a way to express myself in a way I've never been able to express myself.
Yeah. And you know what, I bet you sometimes you're getting questions and you're like, oh, I never thought about that, you know? And so it's got you, like, it's a method of exploring yourself even deeper, you know?
Yeah. And I prefer when they don't send me questions in advance, because then I just try to pre-plan and strategize. Like, I have a really strong strategizing brain.
Yeah.
and I'd like to like know how to not have it be so strong because it gets in my way. It cuts off my flow.
You know, I think I tried that with my first interview, and I was like, oh no, I'm ditching this. You know, I had a whole plan written out, and I'm like, no, we're just gonna go, you know, organic and flow authentically, and just, you know, let God have his way with the conversations, because I don't want to feel scripted, and I don't want to feel, you know, like it has to be a certain specific way, you know.
Yeah, that's good. It's good that you trust yourself to be able to do that. It's good that you have evidence for that. That's great. And it, from my perspective, on the other side of it, it feels much better. Yeah. Like, and honestly, like two best friends just having a conversation. It's great.
I do. I really enjoyed this. I really did. So one more thing. So what is it that you do now?
So now I work with women and I help them reinvent themselves, specifically after heartbreak. So it doesn't have to necessarily be through the divorce process, but for the women who are ready, they're ready to step up for themselves, to start speaking their truth, to do some of the inner work, to heal. And, you know, when you come out of a relationship, whether it's long-term or not, sometimes the question is who am I now? For myself, I was in a relationship for 18 years. I'd never made an adult decision alone. That's like the most ridiculous thing to say. It kind of is. Like, hello?
It's okay though.
Yeah, like, I mean, I made some adult decisions alone, but like there was some, like the major things, where am I going to live? Like, you know, so I now support women through the reinvention process. The easiest way to find me is my Instagram at the Sophie Deslauriers, TheSophieDeslauriers. And all my work is focused on supporting women to grow their leadership, to rebuild their relationship with themselves, to heal, to reinvent themselves so that they feel and ooze confidence. They reconnect to their sexuality and their sensuality, and, you know, they have every other part of their life expand because of how they get connected to themselves.
I love that. I appreciate what you do.
Thank you.
We need more of you out here.
Yeah, thank you. I mean, I could totally work with them and support them with their money too, but their money is going to grow once this part of it's in check. Yeah.
I might take you up on some of those services, because it's so hard to figure out who we are, like to detach ourselves from that old identity.
Yes.
You get what I'm saying? Because we get so sold out in being that old version of us. When we are shaking off all these layers, we're like, okay, now who am I? You know?
And it's a wobbly process, you know, because the vision is not crystallized yet. The feeling of is like it's just coming in. And then there's all these old patterns to break. And like what we talked about, it's not easy. And then the generational stuff comes into play. And so it's so easy to wobble. And so to have somebody like me who's been through it, to help connect the dots, to help make things make sense, to give perspective, to show you a bigger picture, to keep you connected and focused to where you're going, it's helpful. I mean, I wish I had that. And because I'm such a strong coach, when it was time for me to come out of retirement, I was like, okay, where do I want to serve? And I thought, if I only just had somebody like me who could have done that for me, it would have alleviated so much pain, and I would have healed quicker. And
I'm sorry, I don't mean to cut you off. It was something that you just said a minute ago when you said serve. Like, a lot of people look for places where they could just work, right? And really our true purpose is to serve others, right? And so the fact that you mentioned that was very powerful, you know, and I think a lot of people can transition into their true purpose more, I'm not going to say easily, because all of our journeys are different, but when they change their hearts into serving others, how can I serve others? You know, how can I take my pain to serve others? How can I take what I've experienced to serve others, you know? And so that just the fact that you are viewing it like that, that's powerful, man. That's so.
I don't want to work.
Yeah, I know that.
I don't want to work. Like, as soon as it starts to feel like work, I want to quit every day. And, you know, sometimes when I got to learn this tech stuff, because that's just the world that we're in right now, and like I didn't want to pull my hair out. But I do want to serve and I do want to contribute. And there is a population of women out there that will really resonate and need me. You know, it's like my tribe, and it's just about me creating that. And I have a lot to give, you know, and it's just about finding the right ways for me to offer that right now.
Yeah.
But yeah, I do see it as a place of service. So thank you for that acknowledgement. And I do see it as God's work in a way. Really do, because I do believe that when a human, not female or male, but a human is connected to themselves, their truth, their authenticity, it's a completely different vibration that gets put out in the world. And maybe we wouldn't have so many wars and fights and people standing there. When you're in your truth, it's like you can come from love easily.
Absolutely. And you're not swayed easily,
Yeah, that's like we need more of that. Unshakable humans who know who they are and the track that they're on. Like, we need more of that. And we need more of that in women, because we need more female leaders. The world needs more female leaders. Not because I'm a feminist or anything like that, but because of the diversity in thinking and the diversity in our approach, and to create more balance, for those reasons. We're just different than men, and it's not bad and wrong. Men are not bad and wrong. But we do have something to contribute, and we're getting way too burnt out too fast in the corporate world, and there's other ways for us to stand, and this is some of the work that we need to do first, I feel, because it's not easy to lead.
Yeah, absolutely. You know what, I appreciate this today. I really do.
Thank you. I did too. If you want to do it again sometime, I'd be open to that. If you ever have a co-host, I don't know if you ever want to have a guest co-host or whatever, I'd be open to that too.
Look, now you're talking. We can look at something for the new year. I like that.
Yeah, why not? Once in a while, just change it up a bit.
Yeah, I like that, because I'm really thinking about some good, some fresh ideas for 2024, right? To kind of change it up and make it a little more lively. That would be great.
Yeah, well, let's stay connected.
Okay, absolutely. Well, thank you so much, everyone that joined us today on Let the Healing Begin podcast. A couple ways that you can support. You can head on over to www.greatergrowthllc.com and support us there by purchasing a t-shirt or a sweatshirt. You can also head over to amazon.com and purchase a copy of Back in My Day by Aisha Wilson. Or you can also check out the link tree tag below and check out some of our mentoring services, life skill programming for youth. And also don't forget to head over to other social media platforms and like and follow us there. Thank you so much, and until next time.